everybody. To those of you that are here with us today, we hope you enjoyed the film. To those of you watching online, we are thrilled to be here with Emily Watson. So if you didn't see the movie yet, you have a chance for a little bit of insight.
I'm Melissa Gerstein. Again, that's Denise Albert, and we are delighted and thrilled to have Emily Watson here, a 2-time Oscar nominee and a mom of 2, a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. And War Horse opens Christmas Day nationwide, December 25th, 2011. So we're thrilled to have all of you here online and present for our first Mamarazzi event at the Film Society of Lincoln Center.
For those of you online and tweeting, please tweet at Moms in the City, #Mamarazzi, and we will be sure to ask your questions. So we're going to get started right away with the first question. We're going to each do a question, and then we're going to open it up to the rest of you. So if you have a question, please step down to the microphone. The first question, as many of you who have just seen the film saw, that Emily has a fantastic line, which I will start and have her finish because she does it much better than I do, which is, I may hate
you more, but I will never love you less.
And that is something I think a lot of us can relate to. So my question to Emily is, have you felt that in your life?
I think having a young family requires infinite patience. And whatever you do, whatever happens, you never ever lose that love. You don't. But it's testing, put it that way. It can be very testing, yeah.
And my question is, you play a very strong mum. And are you this way with your own children?
I hope to be. Am I strong with them? I think my biggest battle is consistency. I think when I'm good with them, I'm really good. But then it's that thing of so many other things going on in your life and in your head and worries about this, that, and the other. And the challenge of really being present when you're present and really listening and really being in the moment with them that sometimes can be tough.
So we'd love to open it up now to some questions from our audience.
And we can also get it started with a question from Twitter. So I can get that going right now. We do have a question from Twitter, and it is from @Holly Pavlika. Do you miss being normal?
I mean, what is normal? What is normal? I consider myself to be pretty normal, actually. I mean, I live in London, and I don't have a film life particularly there. I don't go to events. I don't live that kind of lifestyle there. I'm very domestic. I, like the rest of you, spend a lot of time running around after my children and going taking them to school and bringing them home, and it feels pretty normal.
Okay, great. Thank you to everyone tweeting in. We have another question. It's from @MacaroniKid Headquarters. She would like to know, how do you keep your kids centered in this I want world, especially during the holidays?
We don't watch television. We watch DVDs, but we don't watch television. And I find if I have the television, I have occasionally deviated in a bit of a, the dinner's burning panic and just shoved something on. And if there is one commercial, they want it. Because commercials are brilliant and they do what they're designed to do. So we don't have that in the house. And I try to limit screen time as much as I can, and we do a lot of reading and we do a lot of arts and crafts and things like that, but it's really hard. I mean, they don't have the discrimination. They see things and they want them. But I think you have, if you give them treats all the time, they just want more and more and more, and you have to be disciplined. It's hard.
Yes.
Hi, Emily. I'm Adrienne Stern. I thought the film was absolutely wonderful and beautiful. What amazed me about the film, and explain this to us, is that the horse actually became to me another person. And on set, what was the dynamics, the relationship? How did everybody react to the horse and treat the horse?
There were actually 14 different horses playing Joey because they're very you think kind of the union restrictions covering child actors are nothing compared to the protection that is in place for horses. And this film was made without a single hair on their head being harmed, which is quite when you think of some of those scenes, that's quite a significant thing to do. I didn't do it, but all the boys went for 2 months to train with the horses. And the boy playing Albert, Jeremy Irvin, he'd never been on a horse before. And he spent 2 months solid. And some of the horses came to him before they'd been trained and broken in, so he learnt with them. And by the time he got on set, his bond with those horses was real. They loved each other. And you can see it. It really was real. And it wouldn't have worked otherwise, because if the horse isn't interested, it's not interested. I'm frightened of horses, and I didn't tell that to Steven Spielberg, but I was amazed by them. These horses, what they can do. The handlers are so skillful, and the horses are so intelligent and so responsive, and it really is extraordinary what they can do.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Holly from theculturemom.com. It's such an honor and pleasure to meet you. Your film roles have impacted so much of my life. I wanted to know, when you first made Breaking the Waves by Lars von Trier, and it was your first breakout role, you had your first Oscar nomination, how it changed your life?
Oh, I remember very clearly a moment at the Cannes Film Festival. I'd never done any press before. I'd never been in the public eye. I'd recently signed off the dole, to do the movie. I was sitting in a huge screening room in Cannes filled with people, and a French actor called Jean-Marc Barr, who you may know, leant over to me and said, "Your life is about to change forever," in a very ominous way. And it did. It was wonderful, exhilarating, terrifying. It was like a tsunami. It opened so many doors for me and gave me an amazing career, and I've got to meet and work with wonderful people and be part of great things. But it also put me in the public eye, and I hadn't really gone after that. My ambition was to be a theatre actor in London, and I kind of fell into being in movies by mistake. And here I am. But I love it. And I love acting in film, but the whole press and the attention is not something that I feel particularly comfortable with, but that you have to do. It's part of the deal. It's part of how you get people to see things.
Emily, we have another question from Twitter, and the question is, from 3 decades, 3 kids, do your children understand fame and what mommy does, and that she's famous?
Sort of. We don't really mix this world with home at all. The only real taste of it they've had was when they visited me on set in Mexico, and I was very much the centre of attention, and a lot of people were coming up to me taking my photograph, and I think they were just a bit puzzled by it, really. Occasionally Juliet's worried that people are staring at us. But I don't play that card at home in London at all. It doesn't really figure. We just ignore it. So I'm hoping they'll have a good attitude, but who knows?
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kim Marie Evans, and I write about family travel. I have 4 children, had them in 7 years. And when we travel, it's kind of a moving disaster. Is it different being famous? Do they treat you differently? Do your children cry less on planes? Do they not vomit?
I tell you, I took Juliet when she was maybe 1.5, 2, to a press junket in New York. And I brought my mum with me because I thought that would be a good way to do it, so she was somebody there she knew and loved and trusted. It was a disaster. Halfway across the Atlantic, we were in business class. Juliet started projectile vomiting onto the person sitting in the next seat. And then the whole trip, she was just vomiting. And my mother panicked and didn't know what to do. It was just total disaster. However, but when I'm travelling for work, we do get, we get to sit in the pointy end quite a lot, so that really helps, because somebody else is paying. That really does help, but it's tough.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Shelley Ross, the founder of Daily Express, a news and pop culture blog. And it's taken me this long to compose myself after watching that film, and to put my Kleenex away, to step to the microphone to ask you. I would love to hear about the Spielberg magic, where it happens, when, in pre-production, when you meet with him, when you walk, is it on the set? What magic did you learn that happens in post-production? I want to hear anything that you can bring to this.
I think he's one of those people who is utterly compelled to tell stories. I've known a few in my life, and it's a very, very special thing. He is, he's awake all night worrying about a shot. Like he's a student filmmaker. He's so excited to be doing it. But I think the really great filmmakers are kind of philosophers in a way. They have a view of the human condition, which they give to you through their storytelling. And I think this is a great, big, beautiful Hollywood, lush, cinematic piece, a love story between a boy and a horse. But it quietly looks down the barrel of a very uncomfortable gun, which is man's inhumanity to man. And the fact that we as a race were prepared to sacrifice millions of young men. A whole generation in Europe was wiped out for kind of nothing. And that's the context in which this love story takes place. And that's a kind of forgotten fact, but I think that's what's so moving about the film, is that is there, and in that terrible, terrible hell on earth that was the Western Front, is this extraordinary creature just bringing out everybody's humanity.
I've seen the play here twice, and there are big departures in characters and the Spielberg-esque part of it, it's quite different and wonderful in a different way.
Yeah.
Were you given the book, the script, the play? How did you?
I'd seen the play in London at the National before I had anything to do with the film, and I was 8 months pregnant when I went to see it. So
that's very brave.
Yeah, I turned to my husband after about 10 seconds and said, I don't think I can sit through this. I found it incredibly emotional. I went to see it in a matinee, and the audience was full of, quite old people. Obviously, a matinee audience, yeah, but obviously for them it was just that bit nearer, that bit closer, and they were rigid with emotion. People could barely move at the end of it, because in Britain at least, I think it's a very different thing here, but that war is such a bruise on our national psyche. Every family has a story. And my own grandmother, when she was in her mid-80s, she sat me down. She'd never, ever talked about this, and she told me about her brother. When she was 12, he was 17, he died in the trenches. And when she told me about it, she sobbed her heart out as if it had been yesterday. And that kind of grief is so powerful, and that's why they created the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier that was created in Britain after the First World War, because everybody had lost somebody, and there was no focus, there was no place to mourn, and they created this Tomb of the Unknown Soldier that everybody could somehow believe that might be their boy, and have a way to funnel that grief. It's a very and it created all that incredible poetry, that real First World War poets. Was a incredibly eloquent anti-war stuff, and I think this film taps into that a bit. I've gone way off the point, I think. But
No, it taps into it a lot. I think that is with you in every frame. Of just tears your heart out. But I can't imagine being 8 months pregnant and that hormonal and sitting through the first very weepy act of this play in London. I can't imagine that.
No, it was. I managed. I got through it.
I can see, but congratulations.
Thank
It's a
you.
spectacular film and a spectacular performance.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I'm a dad, I guess,
Right.
but I have 2 kids. My wife and I took our kids to the play. They're 10 and 6, and some
Okay.
people said maybe not a good idea, but it worked out really well. Now the film is obviously different. What are your thoughts?
I had my nieces with me last night, who are 14 and 11. They were great with it. I'd say totally depends on the kid, I think,
Yeah.
and what the context is. And but I'd say 8, 9. I mean, you see violence, but you don't see gore. You see people dying, but you don't see them actually dying. It's shot in a very specific way that it is possible for children to see it. I think it's a discretion, at the discretion of the parents, really.
Hi.
Hi.
In terms of temperament, have the horses been easier or harder to work with than other actors?
A lot easier, I'd say. A horse doesn't answer back, although they have a real spiritedness which you can't repress, and if they don't feel like doing something, they don't do it. The scene at the beginning where I'm berating my husband for buying a plough horse, buying a thoroughbred instead of a plough horse, and the stakes are incredibly high. What he's done means that we are going to lose our house. We are going to, they're going to foreclose and we're going to lose it. Everything we've lost. And throughout the scene, completely unchoreographed, the horse was just nibbling Peter Mullen's hat on his shoulder, knocking his hat on the floor. It was like, this is my moment. Could you stop that horse? It was very funny. We laughed a lot.
I had just a question about how the project came to you, and if you had worked with Spielberg or been in touch with him prior to that. I was just curious.
About 100 years ago, I was at a kind of fancy lunch in Hollywood, and I met him for about 10 seconds, and I just behaved like a goldfish with my mouth sort of opening and shutting, but it clearly made an impression. I got a call from my agent saying Steven Spielberg is making a film with a war horse, and he would like to meet you. That is a good day in any actor's life. That's a good moment.
And we have one last question from Twitter, and we're going to say thank you. We're going to end on a light note since we are moms in the city, and this is Mamarazzi from @BrieWilliamson. The question is, what's your favorite toddler meals?
My favorite toddler meals. I'm slightly out of the toddler zone, but my kids have always been pretty good at advanced eating, but I do lasagna. I'm a pretty good, spaghetti bolognese, lasagna. That's they'll eat that forever.
So at this time, we'd like to thank everybody for coming. We would like to thank the Film Society of Lincoln Center. We'd like to thank Century 21 for their very generous gift card donations, or gift card gifts to you today. And
if you're online, you can still tweet at Moms in the City Mamarazzi to also win more gift cards.
And we want to thank mostly Emily Watson for joining us today and opening up her life and her feelings and everything about the film. And we encourage everyone to see War Horse who's watching online. It's a beautiful, beautiful family movie.
Thank you.
Thank you
very
so
much.
much.